Hello, everyone. Welcome to In the Court, the place where every cricketer wants to be. I'm your host, Callum Dunk, and thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the podcast. Day 3 of the Adelaide Test match is all over, and what a day it was for Australia. I said walking to the ground if you saw our early social media sort of preview of the day. And I said if Australia could bowl out England inside the first hour, I think that would be great. England actually lasted a little bit longer than that, so I do think that Ben Stokes needs a lot of credit. 83 he made today off a high number of deliveries, I believe over 200 deliveries. So his 50 was off 189 balls from memory. So he got a seriously good ball from Stark, though, and you could just see the disappointment on Stokes' face when he got out. It meant a lot. That innings obviously meant a lot to him, the situation that the team's in. You would love to play for someone like Ben Stokes, someone who shows so much passion, so much care for his team. Obviously, there was a lot made of the criticism that he had of Jofra Archer, when he wasn't bowling to his field properly early on day 2. But I would love to play for someone like Ben Stokes. He obviously cares a lot. That is what some of his teammates seriously needed to do in this series. And it's all good to be aggressive and put some pressure back on the bowlers. But at the same time, there are moments in games where you just need to absorb pressure and take time and make people field for long periods, because there's nothing worse in cricket than fielding for an extended period of time with nothing happening. And obviously it's a super flat deck at Adelaide Oval. But it begs the question from an English point of view, where is that Alistair Cook type player? Where is that Jonathan Trott type of player that's missing from this English team? I actually found out some really good stats today. Haseed Hamid averaged over 60 in first-class cricket in 2025. Dom Sibley, again. I know those guys both had not the most successful stints for England pre-Bazball, but maybe their game has potentially evolved enough that they could, work their way back into the team. At least someone to bat at number 3. I know that Crawley and Duckett's a pretty good overall opening partnership, but maybe someone to bat 3 who could take some more time out of the game. And one thing that I'd be looking at from an English point of view, and we'll talk about this later on, but Stokes didn't bowl today. So whether he's nursing some kind of injury or whether he's just super fatigued from the marathon batting innings, but I think Ben Stokes could seriously bat 3 on Boxing Day, and it would allow England to potentially be a little bit more flexible with their lineup, depending on how they want to structure their team. So just a few things to consider. Jofra Archer made his maiden half century in Test match cricket, and I thought he batted really well. I said on the episode last night that I thought it was really strange that he was batting below Cass, and after today I think he certainly needs to be batting ahead of Cass. I thought he batted really well. I thought he picked his moments to attack. I thought he was able to absorb pressure really well, and it was great fight. I think Jofra's had a great Test match. Only bowled 10 overs today, so whether he's nursing some kind of injury or it's a workload strategy, I think Jofra can really hold his head up high. The Pillow Man copped a lot of criticism in Brisbane, but he's certainly been able to, get some of the critics off his back in this game, and obviously didn't have the greatest of games in Brisbane personally, and some of his actions. But yeah, I think he's been able to stand up really well in this game for England, obviously with the ball in the first innings. But it's the first time that an English player for quite a number of years has taken a fifer but also scored a 50. So well done to Jofra. From there, it was the Travis Head Daddy 100 show, as the boys on the Grade Cricketer like to refer to it. That was a massive Daddy 100 today. Seriously good innings from Travis. It was hot out there today. You can probably see from my collar up here, I'm a little bit sunburnt. I sat out in the sun today, and to watch every moment of Trav bat was absolutely spectacular. Jake Weatherald got a good delivery from Bryden Cass. Unfortunately, he was it was pitching outside of leg. So if he had gone upstairs with the review, he would have been able to overturn the decision. But I think he did get stitched up a little bit by Trav. As much as I love my man Trav, he did get stitched up because if Weatherall's in line here, Trav's way over here. He's not as lined up close to the stumps, which I think you should be as a non-striker to give the best opinion on an LBW decision. So unfortunately, his teammate didn't help him out in that scenario. I still think Weatherall is safe for the rest of the series. I think that you do need to invest time into a new opener, but Jake would probably be concerned with his continuous method of dismissals. I think his continuous method of dismissal, falling over, getting LBW. He's been LBW multiple times in the series, and that's probably something that he needs to work on in regards to his technique. Whether he tries to stay a bit more leg side of the ball, but every time that you tinker with your technique, some other weakness in your game may appear. So that's one for Jake and the coaching staff to work out. But I think that Jake is safe for the rest of the series. And I think he showed some really good signs in the series, but obviously a couple of low scores on his home ground in Adelaide. Usman Khawaja came to the crease, made a nice 40, going for the cut off Will Jacks and getting caught behind by Jamie Smith. That was a good catch by Jamie Smith. I think it's a bat off. I said yesterday it was a bat off between Weatherall and Khawaja. I actually changed my tune on that. I think it's a bat off between Inglis and Khawaja. I can see why they want to play Inglis. Obviously, Inglis does have a lot of potential. However, with Khawaja scoring an 80, 82 and a 40 today, it really, brings that selection conundrum back into question. And look, I think it would be a great fairy tale for Uzi to have the next 2 test matches and then the selectors shake his hand ahead of the Sydney test and say, this is the last test that we're going to pick you for. You're 39 years old. Thanks very much for your service. But whether they choose to go down that path, not every cricketer gets a happy ending, but Usman Khawaja has certainly thrown his name into the conversation to get a farewell in Sydney. So let's talk about Cameron Green, and then we'll touch on Travis Head and Alex Carey. Green, very tentative at the crease. I'm not liking what I'm seeing. I know he's had a big week. Obviously, extremely poor shot in the first innings. I think that Green's time is running out. Hasn't set the world alight since coming back into the team for the World Test Championship final. Only 150 in that time. Inglis has never done anything wrong to get dropped, and from what I've seen today, I would be personally making that change. I think that Cam Green is quite overrated. I see, as I've said on this podcast, I see the potential. I see why they want to pick him. I do think that Green is definitely better with the ball than Webster is. But at the same time, if you're in the top 6 for Australia, you need to be scoring runs. And Bo Webster hasn't set a foot wrong. 50 on debut in Sydney, looked good in Sri Lanka. Didn't get a big score in Sri Lanka because all the top order batters were doing really well. Got a 50 on at the World Test Championship final at Lords. Obviously a tougher tour of the West Indies, but still definitely contributed. Got Australia out of trouble a few times with Alex Carey. So I'd be looking to bring in both for Boxing Day, whether the selectors decide to stay faithful to Cameron Green. But I think patience is running out from fans. Look, we all want Cameron Green to succeed, but at the same time, we want people to be scoring runs. And I think it's just unfair on Bo Webster. Never deserved to get dropped to begin with. But I'd be looking to make that change. Whether the selectors go down that path is another story. Travis Head, wow. That was a hell of an innings today. Was very watchful from the first 10 overs and did what he needed to do. got through that first lunch break, and then was able to explode in those last two sessions. And you could tell at the end of the day that he was proper tired. So if you want to see Travis Head's, live reaction at the ground, make sure that you head over to our Instagram and TikTok page to see that. It was a great moment. 400 in a row at Adelaide Oval. Loves batting at home. The crowd gets around him. And why wouldn't you want to score runs on the best cricket ground in the world? And I know some people might be saying, oh, Callum's from Adelaide. Of course he's saying that. But, Trav loves scoring runs. Adelaide Oval is the best cricket ground in the world. It's so beautiful. Today it was absolutely stunning with the sunshine. Obviously it's been hot, but finally to sit out in the sun in the riverbank stand just over the bowler's arm was absolutely stunning. I thought Trav cut really well. I thought he played the spinners very aggressively down the ground. Wasn't able to let Jacks or Root settle when they came into bowl. The only time he looked really nervous was when he was on 99 and slashed one to Harry Brook, which he dropped. That is also on our Instagram and TikTok as well, if you want to see that moment in the flesh and the reaction from the crowd. Should have been taken. Harry Brook definitely has not had the best game in terms of catching or in the slips. But what a moment for Trav. Home ground 100. Definitely made the most of it. And you could see how fatigued he was at the end of the day. It was still, 30, 31, 32 degrees today. So it was really hot conditions out in the middle. Just loved the way that he played. Alex Carey picked up where he left off in the first innings, on about 60 odd at the moment. Once again, cut very well, ran super well between the wickets. There were points where he was nearly overlapping Trav when they were running between the wickets. But I thought the way that he cut once again, the way that he drove straight down the ground, the way that he was flicking off his pads through mid-wicket, there was a lot of great signs there. And potentially if they did make a change in the batting order, I think Carey could easily go up to that number 5 position. But some people would be like, why move him from number 6 if he's doing so well? From an England point of view, Stokes didn't bowl. So I thought that was a really strange decision. Maybe that's some kind of management plan that they've got going on. Obviously a marathon batting innings. Yesterday, super hot yesterday. It was brutal. Everyone who was at the ground could tell you how hot it was yesterday. Jofra Archer only bowled 10 overs as well. That's probably an area of concern because if Archer's not playing, their bowling attack is genuinely rubbish. I thought Carter's first spell today was definitely a lot better than the way that he bowled with the new ball on day one. I think you could tell he was bowling into the pitch and bowling into the wicket and had a bit more zip and carry and definitely looked so much better in his first spell. So that's what England would be hoping for from Bryden Cast. I thought Tongue was solid at points today, just that inconsistency. I think you can only play one of Cast or Tongue, but you can't play both. I think that England are crying out for a line and length seamer, like a Chris Wokes sort of type. I don't think Chris Wokes would have bowled particularly well in Australia due to his previous record, but someone who can bowl that, higher 130s, good line, good length, challenging that 4th and 5th stump line. Sorry, I've got a bit of a tongue twister there. And then, the way that England won in 2010-11 was with Jimmy Anderson, Tim Bresnan, and Chris Tremlett. And Tremlett was probably the fastest of the three of those, but they were relentless in their line and length, nicking the Australians off for fun. So if I was England, I would be looking at someone to bring in, and obviously just lacking a proper frontline spinner. And I think Jacks is actually doing an admirable job, being dealt a pretty shitty deck of cards at the moment, asked to do a lot, but I think, I said this yesterday, it just shows the lack of depth of spin bowlers and the lack of faith in this particular coaching setup that they're they're not giving a frontline spinner a crack. So if Sherb Bashir's your best, then you should pick him. I don't think Bashir would have bowled amazingly here, but I do think he probably would have been a little bit more consistent than Jacks. But I still think the Australians were going to target whatever spinner England decided to play, so they had to go back to their quicks. So yeah, that was my thoughts on day 3. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section, and let me know your predictions heading into day 4. So make sure you find us on all of your social media platforms and wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll see you on the next episode.